I'm Joe Graydon.
I'm Terry Graydon. The People's Pharmacy podcast is brought to you in part by Squatty Potty, the original toilet step stool that creates healthy toilet posture. Learn how squatting relaxes the colon and allows for easy, healthy elimination at squattypotty.com.
And by Comfy, makers of all-natural buckwheat hull pillows. Comfy pillows provide superior support by conforming to your head and neck for healthy, restful sleep. On the web at comfycomfy.com. For 10% off your first order, enter the code PEOPLES at checkout. Do you have a sweet tooth? Is a meal incomplete without dessert? Could you be addicted to sugar? How can you beat sugar addiction? This is the People's Pharmacy with Terry and Joe Graydon.
There's evidence that the brain responds to sugar in much the same way it responds to addictive substances. Why do some people appear to develop addictions to sugar?
What are the consequences of craving carbs? When blood glucose levels climb, so does insulin. It's the body's way of controlling sugar in the bloodstream. But over the long term, the metabolic consequences of this yo-yo effect can be devastating.
Coming up on the People's Pharmacy, learn how you can beat sugar addiction.
First, this news.
In the People's Pharmacy Health Headlines, Americans are paying more for medicines than people anywhere else in the world. That's the conclusion from an analysis commissioned by the news agency Reuters. Investigators at the University of Liverpool compared prices in the U.S. to those in Europe, South America, and India. Americans pay 3 times more on average than citizens in the U.K. Prices here are 6 times higher than in Brazil and 16 times higher than in India. The differential was recently highlighted by the attention garnered by touring pharmaceuticals and its 5,000% increase in the price of Daraprim, a drug for treating a potentially deadly condition called toxoplasmosis. The cost in the U.S. went from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill. According to Reuters, the company that developed the drug charges 66 cents a tablet in the U.K. Drug prices in America have soared 127% for popular brand name products since 2008. During that same time period, European governments have limited drug price increases by arm wrestling pharmaceutical manufacturers into controlling prices.
Pharmaceutical manufacturers often blame the high cost of new medicines on the expense for research and development. Not infrequently, a promising medicine flames out before it can reach the market. That's what happened to Eli Lilly this week with his cholesterol drug evacetrapib. The medication was supposed to boost levels of good HDL cholesterol while cutting bad LDL cholesterol. But though the drug actually did do those things, it did not work to prevent heart attacks and strokes. This is the third drug in this class to flame out. Prior to the Eli Lilly debacle, both Roche and Pfizer abandoned similar compounds. Dalcetrapib was scrapped in 2012, and torcetrapib was found to actually increase the death rate of subjects in the clinical trial. The study was stopped in 2006. It seems that there may be more to staving off heart attacks than simply raising HDL cholesterol with a drug.
One natural approach to raising HDL cholesterol is to drink a glass of red wine with dinner. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine showed that people with type 2 diabetes can safely enjoy 5 ounces of wine at dinner. The study randomly assigned 224 participants who did not drink prior to volunteering to have a glass of mineral water, white wine, or red wine at dinner every evening for 2 years. They also consumed a Mediterranean diet rich in vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and nuts. The results showed that those in the red wine group ended the study with higher HDL and a better ratio of total cholesterol. They were less likely to have high blood pressure or big bellies, components of a metabolic syndrome that signals a high risk of heart disease. There was no benefit for blood sugar, however, and many experts worried that people with diabetes could disrupt their blood sugar control if they drink wine.
An earlier study assigned 146 participants to drink either Pinot Noir or Chardonnay Pinot for a year. The researchers found that volunteers who worked out at least twice a week and drank the wine they were assigned finished the study with better cholesterol levels than when they started. It didn't matter whether they were in the red wine or white wine group. Presumably, the exercise reinforces the benefits of moderate wine consumption.
Stents are used to keep coronary arteries open after angioplasty. The original small metal mesh cylinders had a tendency to become clogged. The next generation stents were coated with immune-suppressing drugs to prevent tissue overgrowth, but the downside was that they might attract blood clots. As a result, patients with these stents are required to take anticoagulant drugs for months or years to prevent clotting. The trouble is that such blood thinners can lead to uncontrollable bleeding. The tightrope walk between clotting and bleeding requires careful monitoring. Now, a new heart stent from Abbott Laboratories is awaiting approval by the FDA. The device, called Absorb, is made of a material similar to dissolving sutures. As a result, it gradually disappears over the course of 3 years, and the artery is supposed to return to a more normal condition. And that's the health news from the People's Pharmacy this week. Welcome to the People's Pharmacy. I'm Terry Graydon.
And I'm Joe Graydon. What's your favorite breakfast? Waffles and syrup or coffee and a Danish? Either way, you're getting a lot of sugar at the beginning of the day.
It's estimated that a third of the calories in the American diet come from sugar and white flour. This has profound metabolic effects on the body, but it also affects how you feel. Have you become addicted to sugar? Is that even possible?
To help us answer that question, we turn to Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. He's an internist, director of the Practitioners Alliance Network, and author of The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction.
Welcome to the People's Pharmacy, Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum.
Well, it's grand to be with you guys again. It's always a joy because one of the fun things you guys do is teach people how to get a life they love instead of being afraid of everything. And what we're going to do today is teach people how to get rid of their sugar cravings while enjoying their sweets and feeling great. So for listeners, ready to have your cake and eat it too? Going to teach you how today.
Well, thank you, Jacob. It's nice to have you back on the show. Listen, you were one of the first to identify sugar as a serious health risk. So, let's just start the very basics, if you don't mind. What are the health consequences of consuming large amounts of sugar?
Well, in the short term, just how you feel here and now, if you have anxiety, depression, fatigue, brain fog, or you have cognitive dysfunction, a lot of these, often that comes from the excess sugar intake. Long term, it gets worse. High blood pressure, malnutrition, heart attacks, diabetes, stroke, dementia. We're doing a study now on dementia, and the sugar intake is one piece of that. Fibromyalgia, chronic pain, cancer, autoimmune disease, immune dysfunction. We could go on and on. It is a major player. Now, that doesn't mean eating any sugar is going to cause that. It's just when we get to 150 pounds of sugar per person per year that food processors dump into our diet, that's when you see the problem.
Now, Dr. Teitelbaum, I'm pretty sure I have seen some recent research that shows that on the very short term, consuming something sweet, actually, especially if you're feeling stressed, can reduce that feeling of stress right at that moment.
Mm-hmm. And that's the hook. What you'll see that in two of the types of sugar addiction we're going to talk about today, anxiety plays a significant role. So when you're looking at people, what we call type 2 sugar addiction, where people have adrenal fatigue, that's their stress handler. And the hallmark of that is if you get these feed me now or I will kill you kind of episodes during the day, you're going to find that if you eat a little bit of sugar, it's going to bring that low blood sugar causing the anxiety right back up and will leave you feeling better for about a half hour. And then it drives it even further down. and you get you on an emotional roller coaster. It also raises serotonin, the happiness molecule in the beginning, and calms you. But the problem is after you do too much sugar for a continued period, you get what's called insulin resistance, and all of a sudden it does the opposite. The sugar will make you more and more anxious, but you've already learned to reach, when you have those anxious episodes and you walk into the bar and you say, I have a pint, and the bartender slides the Ben & Jerry's down the counter at you with a wise look. If you have that kind of a thing, know that it turns against you over time. We'll talk about other ways to handle anxiety and how to even use a little bit of sugar to handle the anxiety, but in ways that will leave you feeling good overall.
Now, we talk about sugar, and you have certainly been warning us about these dangers for a very long time. But where do we find sugar in the diet? I mean, yes, there's table sugar. It's obvious. Everybody understands that. But there are other places that are not always so obvious. Tell us about them.
How do they say in the old horror movies? They're everywhere. They're everywhere. It's being stuck in food. Ever wonder, Joe, why processed food costs so much less than the original whole food? You'd think that it would cost more to take that food and turn it into processed food. It's because they load it full of junk. And most food that's processed is loaded with sugar because sugar is cheap, it's addictive, and basically junky. So you can take a look at things like the yogurts. Most yogurts are just basically heavy-duty, not fruit, but fruit sugar syrup, fruit-like substance, loaded into some yogurt.
Wait a minute, Dr. Teitelbaum. Everybody's been told that yogurt is healthy food. It's good for you.
Yes, until the food processors get to it. Because, again, you can take healthy food, but you know that in fact, get your yogurt, but leave off that whole lining of sugar syrup stuff on the bottom of the container, because otherwise it's going to drive your metabolism nuts. Get the plain yogurt. Plain yogurt is fine. And then add your own berries, add your own, cut some bananas into it, and you're going to find that it becomes a healthy food.
But what about the vanilla yogurt that's so yummy?
If it says no added sugar, enjoy it.
Yeah, but it always does have sugar in it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And here's how people can tell. For listeners, when you go in and you buy a food, you have no idea what the sugar price tag is because they have this kind of code that the government makes them put on the nutrition box that has real information, and all the rest of the stuff on the label is basically advertising, which is another word for saying nonsense. So you look at a little nutrition box, and you'll see grams of sugar. Divide that by 4, and you'll know how many teaspoons of sugar are in a serving. And instead of counting grams of sugar all day, which I think would be an annoying way to spend your life, just do that quick, look at the price tag. Grams of sugar, divide by 4. Oh, my God, there's 8 teaspoons of sugar in that thing. Put it back on the shelf. Let your gut instincts guide you with it. And better yet, next year the FDA has decided that they have to break that down into the added sugar. So instead of getting the sugar normally in the milk or in the raisins or things like that, that'll be separately. And you'll see how many teaspoons of sugar the food processors have thrown in because they feel their food is such junk that you wouldn't eat it unless they load it with sugar.
Now, we only got as far as yogurt. So what else? I mean, we've got this whole fruit juice aisle that has, if I'm not mistaken, a fair amount of fructose in it.
Well, here's the thing. If you look at sodas, which are public enemy number 1 as far as diet disasters, you have about 3/4 to 1 teaspoon of sugar per ounce. So when you go to the Quickie Mart and you get one of these big burp sodas or 64-ounce, crazy things, that's 48 spoons of sugar you're pouring down your throat. Now, if you go and get 16 ounces of soda, that's 12 to 14 spoons of sugar. So say you decide to be healthy and get juice instead, fruit juice, apple juice, orange juice, and you get 16 ounces of that and you're feeling all good about yourself. 12 to 14 spoons of sugar in that 16-ounce juice. So if you want to have juice, get the vegetable juices. Now, oranges, bon appetit. To get 16 ounces of orange juice, it takes 8 oranges. You want to sit and eat 8 oranges at a sitting? Knock yourself out. I'll just sit there and laugh at you. So eat the fruit, skip the juice.
What about, health bars? You put the word granola in front of something and everybody goes, oh, that's good for me. Or what about cereal? Because, we were told for decades that eggs were loaded with cholesterol and bad for us. So bring on the cereal.
Well, here's the thing. Same thing. Divide grams of sugar by 4, and you're going to find most of them have about 4 spoons of sugar per serving, which is pretty high and more than you need. So you can go with things like Cheerios, which is a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. I'll even do Life cereal or Quaker Oat squares or things like that. That'll have the 2 teaspoons of sugar. That's okay. But the ones, once it goes above 3, just put it back. You're going to find not just that, ketchup, beans, all these things. You just go down the aisle, and you're going to find that 80% of the stuff you've been buying, when you do that, divide grams of sugar by 4, you're going to say, oh, my God, and you're going to put it back on the shelf. But then you're going to find this brand, this tomato sauce doesn't have that much, and it tastes great. So you're going to learn to just shift your shopping habits once you get to see the price tag. Because right now, it's as if you're shopping and they can charge anything, and they do, and it goes straight out of your account and you have no idea, and you wonder why you're always broke. So just, if people learn that sugar price tag, divide grams of sugar by 4, your gut will tell you, and you're going to find your buying habits will change. And not just that, the food you eat is going to be tasting so much better, and you're going to be feeling a lot better too.
Well, one of the areas that we were surprised to find a lot of sugar was salad dressings in bottles. And so what we've done is to start just mixing the oil and vinegar with a little bit of mustard and some seasonings, including some salt and pepper at home. It's easier and it doesn't have that extra sugar in it.
Exactly. And it's okay to have some sugar. This is not a thing where all sugar is bad. It's a matter of how much. So one of my favorite salad dressings that I would make used a rice vinegar made by Marucan. And they had one that said good for salads. Why? Because it had a little bit of sugar in it. It wasn't enough to really be a problem. So you can go ahead and I like the balsamic vinegars. There's some that are aged that are just like make my eyes roll back because they taste so good. So again, you want to get your pleasure. Pleasure is good. And for listeners, you've had so many people telling you, giving you this old Puritan thing that anything that feels good is sending you to hell and is bad for you. And that's utter rubbish. Things, by and large, feel good because your body wants them. So learn to ask 2 questions. How does it feel? And how is it working for you? And if you find it leaves you feeling good, then people say, well, shooting up heroin too. And that's where the second question is. How is it working for you? If it works well for you and it feels good, it's probably good for you.
You're listening to Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. He's a specialist in internal medicine and author of a number of books, including From Fatigued to Fantastic and Pain-Free 123, a proven program for eliminating chronic pain now, as well as Real Cause, Real Cure. His most recent book is The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction.
We need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll learn why sugar addiction is so widespread.
How would you know if you were addicted to sugar? Is it more than just a sweet tooth?
Dr. Teitelbaum lays out the 4 types of sugar addiction. Figuring out which type of addiction you have is important. Find out which profile fits your situation.
You're listening to The People's Pharmacy with Joe and Terry Graydon.
If you like this podcast of the People's Pharmacy and want to continue the conversation, you can join us online at facebook.com/People's Pharmacy to share your thoughts or comments. Welcome back to the People's Pharmacy. I'm Joe Graydon.
And I'm Terry Graydon. The People's Pharmacy is made possible in part by Red X Industries, makers of utterly smooth creams and lotions that deeply moisturize to make dry skin feel soft and smooth. 800-345-7339, online at uttercream.com.
If you'd like to order a CD of this show, you can call 800-732-2334. Today's show is number 1010. That phone number, 800-732-2334, online at peoplespharmacy.com.
We're talking today with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, author of The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction. Sugar sneaks into a lot of foods that you might not think of as sweet. Many people are now thinking twice about soft drinks, but a surprising number of so-called health drinks may also contain sugar or other sweeteners. Even fruit juice is often pretty high in sugar or high fructose corn syrup.
Jacob, why is sugar addiction so widespread today? Is it just because there's so much sugar in so many foods?
That's exactly it. It used to be that if you wanted sugar, you had to sail to the West Indies to get it. The King of England might sprinkle a teaspoon on his eggs in the morning as a sign of power, but it used to be very expensive. Now we get 140 to 150 pounds of sugar per person per year, 18% of our calories, dumped into our diet. And it's become very addictive. The studies show that sugar hits similar brain centers that cocaine does in terms of triggering addictive changes. And there's actually a metabolic shift that occurs that will cause you to sugar crave when you get too much sugar. And there's 4 types of sugar addiction. And the problem is if you just tell people to stop an addiction without getting rid of what's driving the addiction, it doesn't work. You just cause guilt and a sense of failure and shame. So just like drug addicts or alcoholics, where if you treat the root cause, the addictions often go away. And it's funny, there's different approaches. 12 steps help for some people. I like an approach that treats the emotional drives. There's a place called the exclusivehawaii.com, which is the best rehab that I've seen in the world. So I'm happy to go ahead and mention them, that they really work on treating the root causes. And we learned that lesson with sugar also. You've got to treat what's driving the sugar addiction on a physical and an emotional level. And what we found is that there are 4 key types, and they're really easy to spot and identify. And when you treat those 4 types of sugar addiction, not just will you find that the cravings go away, but you'll find that you will feel dramatically better. Your energy will go up, your pain goes away, your brain comes back, your spouse, your dog, and your kids may start coming back and talking to you again. It really has wonderful side effects.
Dr. Teitelbaum, do I understand that you are saying sugar addiction, it's not just a metaphor. There actually is something happening in the brain that is comparable to other types of addictions?
Yes, and actually the National Institutes for Addiction has come out noting that as well. The studies show that areas that affect, for example, in standard addiction, you'll see effects on dopamine systems. And we see similar effects that you'll see with drug addicts in the brain with sugar. And not just that, though. There's also the metabolic shifts that I mentioned that will drive the cravings. And as I mentioned the 4 types to people, they're going to start recognizing themselves. And Terry, it's funny. A lot of people have the old, thing of how do I know I'm an addict? And the usual answer is that by the time you're asking, you are. And I'd like to get a little metaphor, because you're an anthropologist here, you know the background with that, of how people can get the difference, a sense of in their mind of the difference between a healthy diet and a junk food diet in terms of what happens in their own bodies. And I mentioned it to you a while ago that we did a little informal experiment where we have a lot of doves that would hang out around our bedroom. We're in Hawaii, and everything's open to the outside. And we'd start to feed them cat food, the dried cat food. And they would come in, and we'd see them generation by generation. And after about 4 to 5 generations, these cute little doves were turning into pigeons, big, fat, ugly pigeons. And we figured, okay, this experiment's done. And we found it took about 2-3 generations for them to go back to being doves again, but they did. So if you want to feel like a big, fat pigeon, keep eating the standard American diet called SAD. But if you'd rather be a cute dove, well, eat whole foods. So From there, well, why don't we take a look at the 4 types of sugar addiction?
Let's do, please. Type number 1.
So the first one are people who are just tired. They're the soccer moms. They're the people running like crazy. They're women who have been taught that in addition to a full-time job, you also have to take care of the home and kids instead of recognizing that's 2 full-time jobs and getting credit for that extra work they're doing. People are starting to get exhausted. 31% of adults suffer with severe fatigue. And a lot of people will reach to sugar basically for a quick energy fix. So they're reaching for these energy loan shark drinks, sodas, and other things that are high in sugar. Now, caffeine, if you're having 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day, 1 or 2 cups of tea, that's actually a quite healthy way. But if you're reaching for energy loan sharks, just like any other loan shark, at the end of the day, it takes away more energy. So why don't we tell people how to get real energy? And there's 2 parts to that. One is how to step on the gas pedal to get things moving, and the other is how to put gas in your gas tank. And as you mentioned, drinking some coffee or tea is a perfectly healthy way, as long as you're not overdoing it, or doing it too late in the day, eating some chocolate. Chocolate is actually a health food. It has incredible health benefits.
Now, Dr. Teitelbaum, if we're talking about avoiding a lot of extra sugar, I'm assuming that you're talking about a very modest amount of chocolate.
Well, here's the thing. Chocolate's not low calorie. So if you're thinking, oh, good, I'm going to eat a pound of M&Ms, how's that going to work out for you? You're going to feel lousy afterward. So that same question, how does it feel? How's it working? Go for quality, not quantity. Take a small square of the best tasting stuff you can find and savor it. Russell Stover even has sugar-free chocolates that you'll find. You can go online to a place called AbdullahCandies.com. Most of that's regular chocolate, but they'll have a page of sugar-free chocolates. These are the kind that you just put one in your mouth, you savor it, and your toes are going to start curling up, your eyes are going to roll up in the back of your head, and the people in the room are going to say, I want some of what she's having. So you don't have to deny yourself. But like you said, Terry, it's a matter of quality, not quantity. Small amounts and savor.
And
so
certainly,
if you're out with friends and you see a dessert to die for, get one for the table, share it.
That sounds like good advice. And I will point out that if you are eating sugar-free chocolate and you eat too much of it, you will get that feedback fairly soon that was a really bad idea.
So too much, just realize it will have a laxative effect.
Now, Dr. Teitelbaum, you have described type 1, if you like, sugar addiction, and what you've said is a little caffeine, cup of coffee, maybe a square of chocolate. Is there anything else for type 1 sugar addiction?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Our published research has shown that to optimize energy production, just remember the word shine, S-H-I-N-E. So you want to get your 8 hours of sleep a night, and you do that by cutting out things in your life you don't enjoy. For example, are you watching one of the 24-hour news feeds? If it's pleasurable, do so. If you find you're grinding your teeth, but you think it's responsible, that stuff's mostly a fiction. I'm on it. I see how they edit it. It's just, it's a fiction. And so if you enjoy it, watch it. When you stop enjoying it, which for me takes about 10 seconds, turn it off and take that time and use it for sleep. So get your 8 hours sleep. If you have trouble falling or staying asleep, herbal mixes. You can use lavender at night, Epsom salt bath, all kinds of ways to get your 8 hours of sleep.
That's the S. That's the S in shine.
That's the S. Hormonal support is the H in shine. Optimizing thyroid, and we'll talk about adrenal and the other hormones. Infections as an I. If you have nasal congestion or irritable bowel syndrome, a good chance you have candida overgrowth. Good probiotics, cutting back sugar. Other treatments can go ahead and knock that back. But a second key for most people, for most listeners, if you want to turbocharge your energy, there's 2 simple things that you can. My morning energy drink is I take, there's a vitamin powder called the Energy Revitalization System. I do a scoop of that. I add 1 scoop of ribose, which ironically is a special sugar that's not metabolized like other sugars. And our study showed that taking ribose by itself increased energy an average of 61% after 3 weeks. Now, we were hoping for a 10% increase, which is considered dramatic. I've never seen any nutrient like this. So the ribose, which is the backbone of energy production, combined with the energy revitalization system powder, add water, stir, that 30 seconds, most people will find by the end of the month their energy, and this is healthy energy because it puts gas in their gas tank, is really soaring. So that's a nice, simple way to do that. Increasing salt intake, Joe, oddly enough. A lot of people salt restrict, and the studies have shown that the main benefit of salt restriction is that you die younger. So our social security system thanks you. But for many people, they're dehydrated or they need more healthy salt. And then E for exercise. Go out in the sunshine, get some exercise. There's a simple program out there called the Energy Analysis Program. It's a free computer program where people can take quizzes. They can even put in their lab work if they have the pertinent lab tests. It'll analyze all of that, although labs aren't needed, and tell them exactly what they need to do to optimize their energy in their case. So that's a free program that's out there for folks.
Now, Dr. Teitelbaum, we have talked about the first of 4 sugar addictions. What's the second one, and how do you deal with it?
Well, the second one is adrenal fatigue. So if you have these, as I mentioned, feed me now or I will kill you moments, if you get what's called hangry, where you're wearing the T-shirt that says, forgive me for what I said when I was hungry, if you find yourself in marriage counseling, divorce court, there's a good chance that you have adrenal fatigue. That's where the stress handler hormone, called cortisol, is not able to keep up with stress. And your blood sugar drops during stress, and that triggers an adrenaline release, and your fangs come out. And if anybody gets between you and that Twinkie, it's like getting between a mama bear and her cubs. And it's ironic. I mean, it blows my mind that the food processors are, like the candy makers, are so, oh God, I don't know. It's like saying insane, except they're not. They're making a lot of money with it. They're actually teaching people to eat candy bars when they get that way, because they're going to feel better for about 20 minutes, and then they're going to rip the throats out of the people around them a half hour later. It's one of the worst things you can do. So if you get irritable when hungry, also you crash during stress, low blood pressure, dizziness when you stand, frequent sore throats, these are symptoms of adrenal fatigue. And if you increase your salt and water intake, drink some licorice tea, take an adrenal glandular, there's a lot of things you can do that will go ahead and naturally help your body to maintain healthy stress handling ability. I tease that when people have low adrenal, it's like a country western song. Their boss fires them, their spouse runs away, their dog runs away. People can't stand to be around them. And in that case, that's when it's especially important to increase the salt. But here's the thing. When you get that hangry mood, where that's that irritability, and you find you eat, you feel better, don't reach for the 64-ounce soda. Keep a sugar packet in your pocket. All it takes is a quarter packet or less of sugar under your tongue, and that will bring your sugar up, break the attack, and then eat protein. Just some meat or fish, a hard-boiled egg. You can keep some nuts in a bag in your purse. Nuts have the more fat, but they're a healthy oil, but they have enough protein to keep your sugar stable, so you'll stay feeling smooth emotionally for the next couple hours.
Okay. Well, tell us about types 3 and 4.
Okay. Type 3 would be when you have candida or yeast overgrowth. Yeast grow by fermenting sugar, and they have evolved to put out a chemical that says, feed us. It's not an irritable looking for sugar. It's what I call the happy ho-ho hunter. You're kind of going through the cabinets looking for something sweet. The way you tell that is you have nasal congestion, sinusitis or postnasal drip, irritable bowel syndrome, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. Those are symptoms of candida overgrowth. And you'll find when you treat that, just like with the other types, the cravings go away. And you treat it with a good probiotic. I like one that has an enteric coating that's resistant to stomach acid. You go ahead, there's berberine, there's tannins, all kinds of natural ways to treat the candida. And I'll use the medication diflucan for 6 weeks. And then not only do the sugar cravings go away, and people go, oh my God, I can go through the day without having to reach for everything sweet. But their sinusitis goes away and their irritable bowel goes away, so they don't have that rush to the restroom and gas.
And number 4.
4 would be anxiety and depression associated with entering menopause in women or menopause in men. The low estrogen and progesterone trigger depression and anxiety, same in men with a low testosterone. And people had learned to reach for sugar to make themselves feel better. But especially as they get into the 40s and 50s, they start to have insulin resistance, and that backfires on them. Using healthy bioidentical hormones, taking a handful of edamame each day, things like that are very easy and healthy ways to deal with the anxiety and depression caused by these hormonal deficiencies.
It sounds like it's important to figure out which kind of addiction you might have to find the appropriate way to solve it.
Absolutely. And that's a nice thing. That's what that energy analysis program will do. And people can find that at energyanalysisprogram.com. But once you know the type of addiction, and some people will say, well, I have 2 or 3 of those. And indeed, you'll find that as people start to get one and keep taking more and more sugar, it triggers the others. I learned about this the old-fashioned way when I came down with chronic fatigue syndrome and knocked me out of med school for the year. And being a sugar addict, and I have a sweet tooth, I like to feed it, but I know how to do it in a way that's healthy. You'll find that as you get more and more of these, it will often snowball. And by the time you have exhaustion, widespread pain, and you can't sleep, it has triggered into fibromyalgia. And for listeners with fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, basically exhaustion combined with inability to sleep, that SHINE protocol in 2 studies, including a double-blind study of ours, has been shown to increase overall well-being an average of 90%, and helps in 91% of people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. So these are very, very treatable. Treating the sugar, avoiding the sugar, is one piece of that puzzle.
You're listening to Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. He's a specialist in internal medicine and author of a number of books, including From Fatigued to Fantastic. His most recent book is The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction.
And Dr. Teitelbaum mentioned SHINE, which stands for what, Terry?
Well, the S is for sleep.
Get a good night's sleep, 8 hours.
H is for hormonal balance.
I for infection control, and you know a little something about that.
Well, I find that if I eat too much sugar or high glycemic index foods that send my blood sugar up, my skin reacts badly, and it gets itchy and red and just really unpleasant and uncomfortable.
N stands for?
Nutrition.
And E?
For exercise, which we all know is important.
Well, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll find out how to overcome sugar addiction.
What about kids? Is there a safe and healthy way to satisfy a child's sweet tooth?
How can you reduce sugar without going into withdrawal?
We'll also find out what metabolic changes occur as we cut our sugar intake. Does this have an impact on the brain?
And should you feel guilty about the sugar you consume?
You're listening to The People's Pharmacy with Joe and Terry Graydon. If you're enjoying this People's Pharmacy podcast, why not head over to our website where you'll find a wealth of information on medications, conditions, home remedies, and ways to keep yourself healthy. You'll find it all at peoplespharmacy.com. Welcome back to The People's Pharmacy. I'm Terry Graydon.
And I'm Joe Graydon. The People's Pharmacy is brought to you in part by Red X Industries, makers of utterly smooth foot cream with shea butter, helping dry, cracked feet feel soft and smooth. The number's 800-345-7339, online at uttercream.com.
And by Squatty Potty, the original toilet footstool that creates healthy toilet posture. You can learn how squatting relaxes the colon and allows for easy, healthy elimination at squattypotty.com.
To order a CD of today's show or any People's Pharmacy broadcast, you can call 800-732-2334. Today's show is number 1010. That number again, 800-732-2334, online at peoplespharmacy.com.
Today, we're talking about sugar addiction and how difficult it can be to get sugar out of our diets.
Our guest is Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. He's an internist, director of the Practitioners Alliance Network, and author of The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction.
Dr. Teitelbaum, how can we overcome sugar addiction? Is this going to be possible?
Yes, and that's what the 4 sugar addiction types are all about. Once you've identified which type or types you are, for example, with the type 1 where you have the fatigue, you can just start with the energy revitalization system vitamin powder and adding the ribose and getting a bit more sleep. And most people will find that within a month their energy is feeling incredibly better. But the whole energy analysis program will go through and see what else is going on for that person. So when you're no longer tired, you're no longer reaching for the sugar as an energy loan shark. If you're getting that irritability when hungry, by cutting out some of the unnecessary stresses in your life, things that don't feel good and things that you really hate doing, by increasing salt and water intake, you'll usually find those feed me now or I will kill you moments will stop happening. So simply knowing the sugar addiction type, simple fixes. Same with the candida. You're going to stop having those going through the cabinets looking for something sweet because you've killed the infection that's putting out the chemical that's saying sugar, 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 feed us, feed us, feed us. And the same as you treat the hormone deficiencies of menopause and menopause. So it's really a very simple thing once you've identified what's going on in your case.
Dr. Teitelbaum, you've given us a lot of, pardon the pun, food for thought for adults. But it gets a little more complicated for kids. I mean, first of all, children are surrounded by sugar, and oftentimes what they get at school is, some sort of juice, and everybody thinks, wow, that's really healthy. And if they're going to go to a birthday party, in addition to the candy, they're going to get the cake. And, let's not forget Halloween. It's, sugar festival. So how do we help our kids not start down this road at a very early age?
Well, there's a wonderful nutritionist, Deborah Kennedy, who this is her specialty, and we co-wrote a book, Beat Sugar Addiction Now for Children, for kids. So the first thing that you want to do is to go ahead and get rid of the liquid sugars. So start to ease out the sodas, and then move to the fruit juices. But you want to start watering them down because fruit drinks, which is what you get in most of the stores when you're buying those kind of things, they're 10% juice and 90% added water. So what you do is every week or two, maybe every 2 weeks, water the juice down by another 10%. So you put 1 part water, for the juice, or if you have a quart, you put 1/10 of that amount water. The next week you put a fifth of it being water, and then 3/10. And you just gently water it down until it's 1 part juice for 9 parts water. And then it becomes an okay drink. Then you have the 1 teaspoon for 10 ounces as opposed to 10 teaspoons for 10 ounces. So that's the quickest way to begin and the most powerful because that's the biggest area. Number 2, you stop having dessert with every meal that you have. It's not necessary to do that. So you have it once in a while for treats. But you don't want to have this no sugar thing for the kids, or they will start to develop what's called oppositional defiant disorder, where they're going to pig out every time they go to a friend's house. So you let them know once a week you can have whatever sugar treat you want. You can have your dessert, your favorite dessert at wherever you want to have it. So you start to cut it back. Again, you don't need to get rid of it. You just need to trim back the insane amounts. Leave them on the honor system when they go to friends' houses. Otherwise, if you learn to trust them, they will try to get your trust. And what to do on Halloween? Sit there, and you do not try to take candy from babies. That's not what this is about. Let them go out. Let them eat so much sugar that they turn green when they come home that night. And then you can either take what's left over when they go to bed and throw it away, or what my parents used to do with me is I would pick out my couple favorite things after I'd trick and treat, and then they'd pay me $20 for the rest of it. And then they took it and threw it away. So all kinds of simple things that you can do, Joe.
Now, Dr. Teitelbaum, you've said that there is a way to feed a sweet tooth in a way that's healthy. Can you tell us about that, please?
Well, number one, as I mentioned earlier, my favorite food, chocolate. Chocolate in moderation is a health food. Beyond that, you're going to find that as you cut out the sugars, you're going to have a lot of your taste buds are going to get sensitive to sugar again. So things that are just lightly sweetened are going to taste sweeter than heavy syrup stuff used to taste to you. Chocolate, like say they have the sugar-free chocolates, sugar-free ice cream. Those tend to you'll find a number of those, and they're pretty good. And then you want to look at the artificial sweeteners and other sweeteners. Stevia, I consider a good, healthy sweetener. But brand matters because a lot of them, if they're not filtered, they're going to taste like bitter licorice and be awful. So Nature's Way has a whole a new line of flavored ones that are delicious. Body Ecology has a good tasting one. Truvia, Purevia, those are erythritol stevia combinations, are healthy.
But I've heard that when people rely on the diet products and the artificial sugars, that it doesn't lead to the desired outcome, which for most people is weight loss. And so the whole idea behind these seems to be sort of not a boomerang necessarily, but it certainly doesn't produce what people are hoping for.
See, the thing is that the taste of sweet in itself triggers insulin release, and insulin tells the body to get ready to make fat. So whether you do sugar or whether you do an artificial sweetener, you're quite right. You're still going to see you're not going to get the weight loss from it if you're a female. And here's the frustrating thing where the universe has a sense of humor. You'll see with men who drink a lot of sodas that when they stop the sodas and they switch to diet, they'll often drop 20, 30 pounds. The women don't. The men don't care. But it's just what it is. So you're not going to lose the weight with the diet things, but you'll lose the diabetes to a good bit. Your fatigue will go away. Your irritability will go away. Your pain may go away. So there's still a lot of benefits to doing the non-sugar sweeteners over the others. But the best thing of all is over time to keep lowering the amount and let your own natural sweet tooth come back as your taste buds adapt.
Dr. Teitelbaum, as you reduce the amount of sugar that you're eating, what metabolic changes are you on the lookout for? And are there effects on the brain?
Absolutely. And the key things you're going to see will be that your insulin sensitivity starts to come back. And because of that tendency to diabetes, because diabetes was, we saw it in the old days, but it was not all that common. Now we're looking at 1 out of 4 adults being predicted to develop diabetes in their lifetime. So, and that's from insulin resistance. So your insulin starts to get more sensitive. As your insulin gets more sensitive, your mood improves. Your serotonin production, which is a happiness molecule, can often increase as well. You're going to find that your mood stabilizes out, your energy goes up. So much of pain, and 1 out of 4 Americans suffers needlessly with chronic pain because physicians are just not taught in pain management. And our research has shown that most people and using muscle pain as a guideline, if you treat the underlying causes of the pain, like you stop driving your blood sugar into going too low, which throws the muscles into spasm, you cut the sugar, which is pro-inflammatory, you'll find that the pain tends to go down. So you're going to see all these benefits. But we mentioned diabetes, but we see this upswing in Alzheimer's and dementia. And Alzheimer's has been called type 3 diabetes because it's associated with insulin resistance in the brain cells. And because of that, you can't get the fuel into the brain cells and they starve. So we're actually doing a study now. And for those of you listening, if you have a family member who has been diagnosed by a neurologist with Alzheimer's or dementia, and as long as they're not in a nursing home, if they're living in a home in their home with a family member, basically with a family member who can administer the treatments in the study, we are now recruiting people and they can be anywhere in the country, to be in the study, where we're going to be doing the MIND protocol, where we're going to be treating metabolism, the hormonal function issues that we talked about today. We're going to be treating infections, because any infection can, in some degree of dementia, make their brain more fuzzy. We're going to be giving nutritional support, including cutting out excess sugar, but there are a lot of nutrients, folic acid, for example, dramatic benefits in preventing Alzheimer's disease. And D for drugs. We're going to be getting people off of medications they don't need, and we often see that what has been called Alzheimer's turns out to be a drug side effect from a medication that was started around 15 years ago that nobody even knew why they were still on it, and the person didn't need it. So if you have a family member, if you go to the website endfatigue.com or vitality101.com, either of those, on the home page, you'll see a thing where if you want information about the study and how to contact the office for information. But an interesting statistic, 30 to 50% of people diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease on autopsy turn out never to have had Alzheimer's. They had something often very reversible, but it was just blown off as Alzheimer's, and the person was unnecessarily demented for the rest of their life.
Dr. Teitelbaum, guilt. It's so prevalent in our society. I mean, we're always shamed because of, something we've done wrong. And so a lot of people feel guilty when they, drink a soda or they grab that pint of ice cream in the freezer and just don't stop at a bowl full, but eat the whole thing. And so how do we deal with guilt and sugar?
Well, Joe, that's an interesting question. I grew up in a Hasidic Jewish community. Went to the yeshiva-type schools, all of that, all the way through my childhood and into college. And it was an interesting thing. There's so many rules. Don't eat this, don't do that, don't light things on the Sabbath. I mean, we were kind of a rule-bound situation. But there was an old thing, that they would ask the great rabbis of old, well, what if somebody has a gun to your head and you have to eat pork? We get very bored and we have a lot of free time to come up with questions like that. And the classic answer would be, then you have to do it and eat it with gusto, with the fat running down your face, and enjoy it. So by the time you've decided you're going to launch into that piece of cake or have that soda or whatever, enjoy it. Guilt and shame are two useless emotions. All they do is leave you not tasting the food and not enjoying it, and then you're just going to reach for another serving. So no guilt, no shame. And you're saying, well, but all the doctors are saying I should be guilty and ashamed. So I'm going to put on my omniscient doctor cap and robe and staff and tap you on the head and say, doctor's orders, no shame, no guilt. Chuck those. Just ask the question, how does it feel? If it feels good, then ask, how is it working? If it's working, do it. If it's not, then ask yourself, do I want to do it again if it's not working? And eventually, you're going to come around to making a change. And if it's not working and you still decide to do it anyway, I say in the old school, and you say, bless it and enjoy it and savor it.
Dr. Teitelbaum, what should our listeners take home from our talk today?
Pleasure is good, but learn how to read the label so you know the price tag. Take grams of sugar, divide it by 4. And that's how many teaspoons of sugar are in a serving. So your gut will tell you. When you look at that, you'll be able to make informed decisions. There's a smartphone app. It's called Cures, C-U-R-E-S, capital A-Z, where you can look up adrenal fatigue, you can look up fatigue in general, you can look up candida, you can look up menopause, and it's a free app. Over 2 million people have downloaded it. That will tell you what's going on behind each of those and how to effectively take care of those. So there's many tools out there that will help you to have your cake and eat it too. Pleasure is good. When you hear people all over the place trying to make, what's today's crisis? Be afraid of this, be afraid of that. I recommend tuning that out. That's overdone. But when they're teaching you how to get pleasure and have a life you love in a way that's easy and feels good, I'd sign up for that one. I already have, and I feel great.
And you can do that without sugar, right?
You can do it with or without sugar. It's a matter of doing it in moderation in ways that are healthy and feel good, as opposed to doing it because you're an addict who's craving it because your yeast want to get fed. So, Joe, things are not necessarily good or bad overall. The question is, how are they working for you? And people can have their cake and eat it too.
Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, thank you very much for talking with us on the People's Pharmacy today.
Terry, Joe, always a pleasure being with you.
You've been listening to Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. He's a specialist in internal medicine who has led placebo-controlled studies on fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. He's the director of the Practitioners Alliance Network and the author of a number of books, including From Fatigued to Fantastic and Pain-Free 1, 2, 3, a proven program for eliminating chronic pain now, as well as Real Cause, Real Cure. His most recent book is The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction. Dr. Teitelbaum has developed a smartphone application called Cures, A to Z. His websites are www.vitality101.com and endfatigue.com. You'll find links to them from our website.
Lynn Siegel produced today's show. Al Wodarski engineered it. Dave Graydon edits our interviews.
The People's Pharmacy is produced at the studios of North Carolina Public Radio, WUNC.
The People's Pharmacy theme music is by B.J. Liederman.
The People's Pharmacy is made possible by Red X Industries, makers of Utterly Smooth Extra Care 20 Cream with 20% urea for extra skin protection. The number, 800-345-7339, online at uttercream.com.
To order a CD of today's show or any other People's Pharmacy broadcast, you can call 800-732-2334. Today's show is number 1010. That number again, 800-732-2334, online at peoplespharmacy.com.
And when you visit our site, you'll find links to Dr. Teitelbaum's websites. You can also check out information on prescription drugs, herbal medicines, and home remedies. Share your own experience and your thoughts on today's show.
When you go to our website, you can also sign up for our free online newsletter or the free podcast of the show. You'll never miss another People's Pharmacy program again, and you can share it with a friend. It's all there at peoplespharmacy.com. In Durham, North Carolina, I'm Joe Graydon.
And I'm Terry Graydon. Thanks very much for listening, and please join us again next week.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. If so, please consider taking a minute to write a review on iTunes. And thanks for listening to the People's Pharmacy.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. BetterHelp recently surveyed over 16,000 people and found that while 75% of people believe it's wise to seek support, only 27% of Americans are in therapy, and people stay silent to avoid being judged. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching you with the right therapist. Because we're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/stopthestigma for their first ever State of Stigma report, the latest in mental health research.